I'm Anika Viswesh. I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Iris Wagstaff, at the African Science Buskers Festival. Dr. Iris Wagstaff, PhD, is a chemist, educator, mentor, researcher, and STEM policy advisor. She currently serves as the STEM Program Director in Diversity, Equity, and the Inclusion Department of AAAS. She is a native of Goldsboro, North Carolina. Dr. Iris Wagstaff holds a BS and MS in chemistry from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and North Carolina A&T State Universities, respectively, and a PhD in science education from North Carolina State University. She has over 15 years of experience in the industry as a research scientist and over 20 years of experience in STEM outreach and advocacy at the K-12 level, developing informal science programs. She serves on the boards of several organizations that include the National Organization of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers, the Chemical Society of Washington, and Science, Engineering, and Math Links. Dr. Wagstaff has received several honors that include the 2019 DC Metro HBCU Alumni Alliance Award for Education, the 2019 AERA Science Teaching and Learning Research Award, the 2019 BEYA Science Spectrum Trailblazer Award, the 2018 NOBCCHE Presidential Award for Mentoring, the 2017 Women of Color in STEM K-12 Promotion of Education Award, and a 2016 nomination for the NSF Presidential Award for Excellence in Science, Math, Engineering, and Engineering Mentoring. Please welcome Dr. Wagstaff.
Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm really excited to be here. And first off, before I start with my presentation, I really want to thank Ms. Anika Viswesh and also Mr. Knowledge Chukundi for inviting me to be with you here today. For my presentation, first, I'll start off sharing a little bit about my background, where I come from, and how I came to be doing the work that I'm doing now. I'll share a little bit about my educational and career path, and then the world of chemistry, and also just some tips to encourage you in your STEM journey. So I'll get started with my presentation now. So the title of my talk today is STEM Career Pathways Through a Chemistry Lens. So a little bit about my background. I come from a small town in North Carolina, which is up here to the left, eastern North Carolina, and it's called Goldsboro, a town of about 50,000 people, very close to the coast and the Outer Banks. And growing up, I came from a low income background. My mom made very little money. She was a divorced single mom raising me and my older brother. And she is in the middle. And I always have a picture of my mom who passed away in 2018 because she's always been the reason for all of my success, where I am today. She told me that I could be anything that I wanted to be. She wasn't a scientist, but she created a scientist. So she is definitely the reason that I've done all of my work in chemistry, all of my work in STEM, as well as science policy. So to the left, you see a picture, and many people probably don't know what this is, but my small town of Goldsboro, North Carolina, had two major industries. One is the Air Force, where we used to house the F-15 and F-16 fighter jets, and then the second industry is agriculture and tobacco, to be exact. So this is a picture of tobacco, which is a very important crop to my hometown. Up here to the right, you see a picture of myself and my chemistry teacher from high school, Miss Cheryl Austin, which I credit her, for really getting me interested in chemistry when I took AP chemistry in high school. She's an amazing person. She was an awesome chemistry teacher, and we actually still work together today, developing informal science programs in my hometown. And at the top right, you see a picture of her in the garden where we both develop STEM curricula to help embed science concepts for middle school students and teachers by teaching through agriculture and gardening. So at the bottom, I always show this because people think that if you're a chemist or you're a scientist that you don't have any other hobbies or interests, and that's totally not true. Growing up, I was interested in the arts. I sing, I was in the choir, I played the piano, and I was also heavily, heavily involved in politics and student government. Oh, how did I get here? What is my STEM journey? So I always love sharing this story because my path in STEM has been a non-linear path. There's been a lot of turns and pivots along the way to get me to where I am today. So I started out getting a BS or a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, or UNCG. And then I went on to get my master's of chemistry, analytical chemistry, at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, which is an HBCU, or historically Black college and university. And actually, North Carolina A&T is responsible for graduating the most African Americans in engineering in history. So shout out to UNC Greensboro, Spartan Pride, and also shout out to North Carolina A&T Aggie Pride. I then went on to work at Dow Chemical Company for 15 years and had a very long and successful career at Dow Chemical. Most people probably don't know the products that Dow Chemical makes, but they make products, or the chemicals that go into the products that we use every day. So Dow Chemical is based on polymer science or polymer chemistry, and polymers are just long chain molecules of smaller molecules. So if anybody's ever used paint or worked with paint or any type of coatings, then those are polymers. And Dow Chemical makes the chemicals that go into these products. Another product that's based on chemistry or chemicals are Tide cleaning products. So for example, the whiteners or brighteners are chemicals that Dow Chemical makes to make products work, like Tide. So I always have a detour stop sign here along my journey because after having a very long 15 career as a research chemist at Dow Chemical, my mom got sick back in North Carolina. So I left a job that I loved, a profession that I loved, to go back to North Carolina and care for my mom, and she later died. So I always have a stop sign and then a detour here because that really changed the trajectory of my whole life. So after my mom passed, I decided to switch gears. I no longer had a career as a research chemist. So I went on to teach chemistry for nursing students at the community college level. After that, I went back to school and got a PhD in science education from North Carolina State University because I really wanted to focus on supporting more minority students getting into the science, technology, engineering path line. And that led me to where I am today, which is AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And then I'll share a little bit about my work in Washington, D.C. next. Before I go into my work at AAAS, I just want to share a little bit about chemistry. Chemistry is all around us, just like science is all around us. So what is chemistry? Chemistry is the study of matter, its properties, and the changes that these materials undergo, or the chemical reactions that they undergo. And the very basis of chemistry is the periodic table of elements. In the center, I'm sure you've seen this before, but there are actually 118 elements, and different combinations of these elements and compounds are responsible for everything that we see around us. They're responsible for the clothes that we wear. They're responsible for the products that we use every day. They're also in our body. So the foremost abundant elements that are in all human bodies are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. And organic chemistry is a whole field of chemistry that's devoted to living things or any materials that have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So what are the jobs that you can do in chemistry? So there are so many things that you can do with chemistry. It's the basis for a lot of types of research, and it's a basis for a lot of different sectors in the workforce. So one of them is a pharmacist. So you have to take chemistry in high school and college, and then go to pharmacy school to become a pharmacist. So chemistry is also involved in pharmacy because it's how you make drugs. Drugs are made through organic chemistry or synthesizing compounds to make the drugs that you use every day. So another career in chemistry is being a research chemist, which I did. And so at my job, one of the things that I did was I reverse engineered competitive products to see if other companies were trying to copy or steal our research and our technology. I also analyzed products and materials whenever they failed. So for example, if you painted your house and the paint came off of the building, then the customer or the company, like Sherwin-Williams, would send the product back to us, and I had to figure out, well, what caused the product to fail? So there are a lot of different ways that you can do research in chemistry. You can actually develop new materials, products, and technologies as well. Another area is patent law. Which many people don't know. In order to work in patent law, you actually have to have a science background. So a science background is very important because whenever, for example, a drug company makes a drug, they actually have to have that drug patented so nobody else can copy their product or their creative invention. And a part of that patent process is you have chemists working alongside patent lawyers to really find out, what is this product made of? What is the chemical structure? And what part of that has ownership by the company that made it? Another job that I really love that chemists do is in the area of forensic scientists. And this person on the right is not just, a picture I took from a stock image. This is actually a friend of mine. And she is Dr. Candace Bridge. She's a forensic scientist, and I call her the real CSI. She works to develop analytical techniques to help identify criminals. And then finally, being a science teacher is another awesome job you can do in chemistry. So one thing I like to mention, many people don't know that chemistry has origins in Africa. So the word chem actually comes from the word Khem, which is a word the Greeks used to describe ancient Egypt. And the word chemet, which is also related to chemistry, is the name that ancient Egyptians called their country. One of the reasons that I love being a scientist and a chemistry in particular is because chemistry is responsible for the beautiful brown skin that I have. How? And that is responsible through melanin. So melanin is a chemical structure. It's actually something that every human being has in different amounts and different levels. And melanin is actually a group of naturally occurring pigments in the body. Melanin is actually formed through a process called melanogenosis. And that process is catalyzed or triggered by UV rays or sunlight. So the closer to the sun rays or sunlight or closer to the equator you are, the more melanin that you have. So just my very being has everything to do with chemistry. And if you see my shirt, I actually have the chemical structure of eumelanin, which is the most commonly occurring form of melanin in the world. So a little bit about my work at AAAS, or the American Association for the Advancement of Science. First of all, AAAS is the oldest and largest general scientific organization in the world. We were founded in the 1800s and have about 200,000 members. Most people know us through our journal called Science Magazine. But I love my work at AAAS. I am a STEM program director, and that means I get to run programs that support thousands and thousands of students at the undergraduate and graduate level to pursue careers in STEM. I support them by bringing them to Washington, D.C. to present their research. We provide travel awards. We have educational and career fairs so they can learn more about science. And this work has been very, very rewarding for me. My chemistry foundation has led me to work across all educational levels and all sectors. And at the top left, you see just one of the rewards that I've gotten from having a foundation in chemistry. It was the Women of Color in STEM Award, where I was recognized for my efforts in education. At the bottom, you also see an article where I actually talk about chemistry in community and my work in doing outreach. So my foundation in chemistry has actually led me to do a lot of interviews and a lot of articles really sharing this work in STEM education, outreach, and advocacy. So here I just wanted to show some of the pictures, over my lifetime. For over 20 years, I've worked developing science programs in the community. I also work with science teachers to help them teach science from a culturally relevant standpoint and to really help students connect the science that they learn in the classroom to their everyday lives. I also work with parents to help parents with resources to help them encourage their children in STEM. So these are just a few pictures of me over the years, working in some of the programs that I've created in the community and especially chemistry programs. So I've shared a little bit about my winding career. I love sharing a little bit about my career path because it definitely was not linear. I started out doing research, a bench scientist doing research as a research chemist. I then went back to graduate school and got a PhD in science education so I could really focus on supporting more minority students getting into science, technology, engineering, and math. And now I'm working leading national efforts from Washington, D.C. for AAAS to support more students getting into the STEM pipeline and onto STEM careers. So I just wanted to share a few tips for you to help you succeed in STEM. First of all, I want to congratulate all of you because if you are participating in this year's Africa Science Busters Festival, then you're already, on the right path. This Participating in this fair today means that you've already changed the trajectory of your life, and you're already in the path to become great in STEM, no matter what career you decide to do. So first of all, I want to encourage you and just say, continue to explore and learn about STEM careers. You can do this online. There are many resources to help you learn more about all the different options you have in STEM. Continue to engage in programs like this that really support students learning about STEM and learning about STEM careers. The third tip I want to share is definitely take the advanced level math and science courses. They may seem hard and you may seem hesitant about taking these classes because they take a little bit more work, but trust me, it's worth it, because if you take these advanced level math and science courses, they will definitely prepare you for high school and prepare you for getting into STEM majors in college. The fourth thing I want to say is study hard. Just do your best. You might not always get an A, but as long as you study hard and do your best, then everything will work out and you'll do well in your courses. The last thing I want to say is believe in yourself. You can do it. And this is coming from somebody like myself who, again, came from a small town, a low income background, faced challenges and barriers all through growing up. I faced many challenges and barriers through college, as well as my career path being a Black or African American female in chemistry. So I just want to encourage you and say, again, believe in yourself, and that you can do it. Well, I will end today with questions, and I will stop sharing my screen.
All right. Let's see if anyone has any questions. If people have questions, please send them in the chat. If you don't, we can ask our own questions to get started. So the first question, how do you make a STEM project?
So it depends. First, you have to think about the idea that you want to communicate. For example, if you want to show how a particular product is made, that's where you would start. And then I would suggest researching it online. For example, if you want to learn how plants grow, that can be a STEM project. You can search them online. There are many resources on STEM fair projects, especially for different types of festivals. So I would say that that's where I would start.
Thank you for that answer. Let's see. Probably there are questions coming in. Okay, I actually have a question for you. What types of hands-on activities can students do to learn more about chemistry?
Oh, there's lots of activities. A simple activity that you can do is learn about acids and bases. For example, acids and bases are incorporated into the foods that we eat every day and things that we drink. So you can get some pH paper and test the pH to determine whether or not a product is an acid or a base, for example. Again, this is another example of how chemistry is all around us. So lemons, anything that's citric, fruity, all of those are acids, right? Bases are things that have a higher pH, so higher than 7. So a lot of the cleaning products that we use are all bases. So that's an example of acid-based chemistry in our everyday lives. And you can actually make indicators to tell whether or not something is an acid or a base by using cabbage. for example. And you can search acid-base chemistry, simple experiments online. That's a great example of how chemistry is involved in our everyday lives. Cooking is also an example of chemical reactions. So you notice when you're baking a cake, you start off with individual ingredients in different forms, and then a chemical reaction happens once you mix all those ingredients together, put them in your oven and expose them to high temperature, and it turns into a cake. So cooking is definitely an everyday example of chemistry.
Thank you for that answer. Our next question comes from Memory, and she or he asks, how do you pick yourself up when things don't go your way? What's your strategy in those cases or routines?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Yeah, I have challenges all the time. I had a lot of challenges and barriers, like I said, growing up, in education and being in the chemical industry. So, actually, being an African American female in the chemical industry. So, I mean, just one thing I remember is just my mom telling me that I can do anything that I wanted to do, I can do anything that I could set my mind to. And I have a strong faith in God. I feel like, God made me not to blend in, He made me to stand out. So I remember, I just root myself in my faith and all the things that my mom taught me. And I just remind myself of the challenges and barriers that I have overcome, and that whatever it is I'm going through, I will definitely get through that as well.
Thank you for that answer. Our next question comes from Vongwai, and he says, how old were you when you discovered you were interested in chemistry, and what triggered that interest?
Oh, that's a good question too, because like I said, I wasn't, just interested in science growing up. I was very interested in politics, in the arts, in music. I was also in the band. So I had a lot of different interests. But when I took AP chemistry in the 11th grade, again with Miss Cheryl Austin, my chemistry teacher that I showed you, something just clicked. It's like I could see electrons moving in my head. At that time, I thought I might go into drug design because I really wanted to work on like cures for diabetes, something to help my community. But I just saw science in general, or STEM, as being a way that I could help make a better life for myself and be able to like take care of my mom and help in the community. So I guess in the 11th grade, I was probably maybe about 15-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thanks for that answer.
Sure.
Our next question comes from Muhammad Abil, and he asks, how do you build a motivation when you are down?
Yeah, it can be hard. I would say, look to role models, look to, people around you or people in your environment that have done great things in STEM. And, that can be a motivation that you can do it also. Again, participating in things like, this event today, hearing my story. Hopefully that'll be motivation and encourage to you, but just keep going. Science is all about trial and error. Nothing works the first time. So science is a great model for real life, right? It's trial and error, and it's just continuing to just work hard and do your best and keep trying.
Thank you for that answer. Our next question is from Shinda, and she asks, how to be sensitive to surrounding problems that need to be researched, especially to chemistry problems in our environment.
How to be sensitive. I would just say, the way I practice my life in general is, I'm always respectful. I'm always, considerate to the people that I work with, students, teachers, parents. I'm always respectful of the environments that I'm in. So I think that's just kind of a life motto for me. And I just think about, treating other people and, environments that you come into is a basis for that. Actually, you bring up a great issue because there are a lot of chemists working in the area of social justice. So STEM and social justice issues. So trying to eradicate hunger and poverty. How do we come up with, alternative, energy sources? How do we, make sure we have a safe, water supply? So chemistry is very involved in actually addressing these issues, of our environment and how we actually safeguard our environment for the future.
Thank you for that answer. Thank you so much, Dr. Wagstaff, for your motivating presentation. It
Thank
really was
you.
amazing.
Thank you so
so
much. And congratulations for all of you participating in the festival this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to introduce